almost like I've got the devil on my shoulder and he's just being like, just have a little bit.
When you're going through your binge, are you stressed out? Are you feeling joyful? Are you feeling sad? If you want to break free from it, you kind of need to go back and look at, right, what is it that I'm feeling? Understanding what the emotion is behind it and then what that connection is can really help you move forward. If you force yourself to not have it and then you push until Sunday, you might then be like, oh my God, I'm so overly tired, overly exhausted, lacking energy. I deserve this. But if you allow yourself to have it once in a while, then it doesn't become good or bad and an all or nothing or a cheat meal. You can kind of, work it into your lifestyle without it being so much of a problem.
Why am I so addicted to sugar? If that question has ever echoed in your mind, especially if you've made incredible strides in other areas of your life, then you are in exactly the right place. Welcome to the Upward Spiral podcast, where we believe that after even big transformations, the journey of growth never stops. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to introduce our guest. She is a certified nutritional health coach, empowering women to take charge of their health. She's the insightful host or co-host of the Forties Formula podcast, bringing science-backed insights to busy lives. And she has a genuine knack for breaking down complex topics into actionable steps that make real sense. Please, can I welcome the incredibly knowledgeable and vibrant Jasmin Dhillon.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited that you are here today. And I'm really excited that we are tackling a topic that I've actually talked about quite a bit on the podcast, because it is something that I really, really do struggle with. And I'm so happy that you're going to be sharing your expertise with us today.
It's interesting you say that because I don't think it's just a you problem. I think a lot of women, actually even people in general, suffer or struggle with sugar addiction.
Yeah, and I think it's the more we're learning about it, the more that it's coming out about how much harm that it's doing to us, particularly in the quantity that we're eating. It's quite alarming. And I think, a lot of us now are thinking, okay, we need to come off this or reduce it significantly. And I think, I'm concerned about my own health, but more than anything, I'm concerned about my kids. They are eating a crazy amount of sugar. I can watch their behavior change significantly when they have it, when they don't have it. I'm watching, even this morning, and my kids are almost 6 and 4, and they get on the bus this morning. The kids have got candy, and my son's like, oh, can I have a candy? Can I have a candy? And I'm just like, God, this is 7:30 in the morning. How is that then going to dysregulate him for the rest of the day? So, I believe in leading by example. So I want to come off it for me and then hopefully kind of have a ripple effect through my family.
I know, I was going to say it's understandable because I think the issue seems to be there's a lot of hidden sugar that seems to be around right now. So everyone knows like chocolates, cakes, biscuits, that sort of stuff is sugar. But then if you then peel it back and actually have a look at the other food that people are eating, maybe they don't realize that, when they're having a sandwich and it's got some mayonnaise in there, that's got sugar in it. Or if they're having some pasta with some pasta sauce, that's got sugar in it.
Yeah.
And unless you're making everything at home from fresh, all of these little bits of added sugar do add up. And then you chuck in some sweets and chocolates on top of that. And basically, you're in for a really high sugar roller coaster ride.
So today we do want to talk a little bit about maybe the decoding sugar cravings and the physiological and the emotional needs. But maybe before we get into that, could you just tell me a little bit about maybe the scientific literature? Why is sugar, maybe on our consumption of sugar, now becoming a bit more worrying?
The thing is, when it comes to sugar, it's what it does to your body when it's taken in excess. Now, you've had Amanda on the show and she spoke about metabolic health. And obviously, having muscle can help with your metabolic health in the long run. But the other side of that is if you are not eating the right foods and you're eating too much and in excess, then that can also have an impact on your metabolic health as well. So then when you are consuming too much sugar, you've got things like insulin resistance or dysregulated blood sugar levels. You can have gut health issues, so a dysbiosis in your gut, which could be something like candida or just the balance of your good microbiome being overthrown by the bad bacteria. Now, it's not that you want to get completely rid of the bad bacteria, but you need to have a balance there. Then you've got other things like it might impact your neurotransmitters. So if you have something sweet, your brain senses that this tastes amazing and it releases dopamine. But over time, that dopamine response is going to get dulled, and then you need more to feel that same sort of spark that you had. So all of these things can then impact your body in a physiological sense as well. And it usually stems from having an overconsumption of sugar, because you won't end up having these issues without having the overconsumption first. You have one chocolate, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to cause these problems. But if you do it again and again, you get stuck in this vicious cycle where the more you have, the more you want, the more you need, and then other things will follow on from that.
And what's the recommended daily intake of sugar?
To be honest, your blood sugar level needs to be at about a teaspoon. That's your blood sugar level.
Yeah.
And there's processes in your body where it will regulate that. So when you do have a sugary meal or a high carbohydrate meal, your body will release insulin and then funnel it into the correct areas, into your liver, into your muscles, and then also into the cells to be used for energy. But you're going to get way more than a teaspoon by just having, a chocolate bar or some juice or something like that. And I think in order to have a recommended amount, you want to try to keep it to as minimal as possible. And that is minimizing the added sugar, because you're also going to be getting sugar from the natural food that you're eating as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. So we've just actually started on like the physiological. I think you've got an interesting story. And so I'd like to hear a little bit about your background here. I'm not going to give any much away. You go. You tell us a little bit about your story.
Oh my God, my story. I always get confused because I never know where to start, because I feel like it started so long ago. And I think now, if I really take a step back, as a child, I was addicted to sugar. And I don't know if that was because I just love the taste of it, which obviously most people do, or if it was because I was hungry. Because now, if we go back and we have a look and we start with, what did I eat as a kid? I grew up in the 90s. I think that's a massive giveaway for the kind of food that I probably did eat. But my morning would consist of breakfast, which would be cereal. And if you look at the recommended serving of cereal, it's meant to be like 30 grams for an adult. I can tell you, I was definitely not having 30 grams. 30 grams is like a handful. I was having a massive bowl, like a massive bowl. It's probably 5 times the amount that you're meant to have. And then wanting more. And the cereal wasn't, like bran flakes or, Alpine or something like that. It was Cocoa Pops. It was Rice Krispies with extra sugar added on top,
Yeah.
or cornflakes with extra sugar added on top. And then this obviously meant that my system was overloaded with too much sugar, and I was probably having dysregulated blood sugar levels. And then you fast forward me into sort of my teen years, into puberty, and I started noticing issues. Now, I used to have really heavy periods and really, really painful periods.
Mm.
And that kind of obviously indicated that there was something wrong, because my hormones weren't in the right place. I would go to the doctor all the time, and they basically said to me, "Oh, maybe you should have a cup of black tea with lots of sugar in it." And I'm not going to joke. I used to have tea, and I'd probably put 3 to 4 teaspoons of sugar in this tea. And like the thought of it now makes me feel like, oh my God, I can't believe I used to drink it. But at the time, I loved it, and it didn't taste sweet. That was the thing. I think that was like a sign, like I drink it and it wasn't sweet. So I went through all of these things during high school. I tried to eat in a way in which I would be skinny like my friends, and I wasn't. I was overweight. So I'd be like, okay, I need to cut back on my fat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a can of Coke and a chocolate bar for my lunch. So I was
Oh, yeah.
starving. And then I'd be like, right, what can I eat after school? Oh, let me just have this bag of crisp and this chocolate, because it was, and biscuits. These were like easy, quick fixes for me to get. And then I started noticing other issues. So I had periods that went on for 3 months,
Oh God.
like nonstop bleeding for 3 months. And at the time, nobody could tell me what was going on. It was, oh, just this happens to some people. And then we fast forward a little bit. When I was about 23, I was finally diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition. And that is inflammation, I guess, of the thyroid. So basically, my thyroid isn't producing the right amount of thyroxine to help support my metabolism. And again, I during this time, I spent probably most of my life going through different diets. I did Atkins, I did Weight Watchers, I did Slimming World. So everything was always about, eating the least amount of food that I could get, usually not nourishing, like nutrient poor food, just so that I could try to be skinny, which didn't happen, by the way. Spoiler alert. Yeah. And then after I got married, I wanted to have a baby and I really struggled with my pregnancy. I had 2 chemical pregnancies before finally getting pregnant. And it was only when I was given progesterone did I actually hold on to a pregnancy. And we fast forward again a couple of years and I went into perimenopause at age 36. So all of these signs, all of these things with my autoimmune condition, my painful periods, my the fact that I was hungry all the time and struggling to lose weight, my thyroid issue and my perimenopause were all indication that something was wrong, but yet nobody could tell me what that was. And then if you peel it back, it is probably a combination of insulin resistance, the fact that I had a gut dysbiosis, which was obviously what led to my thyroid issue, and also the fact that I was essentially addicted to sugar.
Oh my god.
A lot to take it.
It's like crazy. And I kind of want to echo a few things there as well, and just also kind of mirror a few things. I think less about echo, but yeah, I was very much the same as a kid. It was kind of those big sweet bowls of cereal, it was a couple of tablespoons of sugar on the
Yeah.
Weetabix in the morning.
Well, at least yours was Weetabix and it was
No. Oh, there was Frosties in there,
Yeah.
everything else. But, that was with a glass of orange juice and,
Was it Sunny D though? Because that's the thing that we used to drink Sunny D.
yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, I don't know. It was a mix of like Sunny D on special occasions, but the rest was because we used to go through so much cartoned orange juice. My mum was like, I cannot keep affording to buy this. So I think at one point we were on like Tesco's no frills orange juice, which I don't think actually had any oranges in it. It's just pure sugar. But that was how we started our day. And I was very similar to you. I would kind of have these crashes and get to lunchtime would be like, oh God, it was the 90s, it was the noughties, it was the size 0 era. It was Britney Spears with her amazing abs. And I was like, I just want to look like that. And so, yeah, it was a can and a chocolate bar at lunch. Occasionally I might share like a chip balm with my friends. And then coming home, but even as a kid coming home, I was too busy to eat, right?
Oh, see, I wasn't.
So I was a busy kid. Like I just wanted to be playing outside with my friends. Like I didn't want to be in the house. My parents could not get me to sit and eat dinner for love nor money. And when they could, it'd be kind of turkey dinosaurs and smiley faces.
Oh, yeah.
Potato smiley faces.
I know exactly what you mean. We used to have turkey Twizzlers as well. And
Yeah.
that's completely been taken off the shelf now.
Yeah. And it was part convenience because my parents were working a lot, but also I just wouldn't eat anything, that wasn't a carbohydrate, processed food or sugar. And then, yeah, like you kind of getting into my late teens, like really and 20s, had some really, really major gut issues. And it wasn't actually until I got to Singapore, kind of in my late 20s, that I was diagnosed with candida in the gut, like really, really awful overgrowth. And had to do the candida diet twice, where you cut all forms of sugar. And that's your kind of no gluten, no dairy, no sugar in any form. So, like, not even fruit. And I did 2 lots of those at like 8 weeks each with kind of antifungal medication and everything else. When you have this horrible die off when it happens, and it was absolutely brutal. Like, I felt like my life had ended. Like, it sent me into a really awful depression. I felt like I couldn't go out. I was still drinking at the time. I felt like my life was over for those periods of not eating, of having such a restrictive diet. And I would say it helped.
Mm.
Since then, I can every now and then, if I eat too much sugar, I really get painful gut pain, and I'm like, oh, okay, no,
Mm.
and then I know I have to kind of cut it out for a little bit. But even with that, even with the kind of trauma of having to go through that, I still wasn't able to give up the sugar.
the thing is, do you need to give it up completely? I think that's probably the question. Because actually, if you think about it, you've given up alcohol,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've told me before that you don't drink much caffeine now.
Yeah, no, but I never have really drank caffeine, and to be
Okay.
fair, I wasn't ever really a fizzy drink drinker. That was never my thing.
And I think the question then becomes is, for you, does it feel like like where am I going to get my enjoyment from?
Yeah, I think it's 2 things. I think it is I think it's more psychological and emotional for me than physical cravings
Mm.
now, because I can go, like, a week without, or a couple of weeks or a month without having sugar, like, I can do it from a physical side. I think on the emotional side, there's 2 aspects to it. There's the connection, and this is the thing that I found the hardest when giving up alcohol, was feeling like I wasn't gonna have those moments, that sharing a dessert at the end of dinner, baking cookies with my kids, roasting s'mores on a campfire, roasting marshmallows on a campfire. Like, I thought that, having, Christmas morning and having chocolates in your advent calendar, Easter, so much of these really special occasions, and my kids get so much joy out of these special occasions that often have sugar really, really ingrained in them, that I was like, "God, I can't imagine being there and witnessing that and not having a bit of sugar with everybody." Um, so it's connection,
Mhm.
okay, that side of it. The second though is I'm stuck in a loop of restriction and binging, and so when I am eating sugar, I'm kind of all in on it. I will use my kids as an excuse to bake a cake just so I can eat spoonfuls of frosting or
Mhm.
cake batter. It's, sometimes it can just be 1 or 2 squares of chocolate, but other times it's a whole bar, and I'm talking a big bar.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
And I just feel like I'm not consistent. I can't just, like, and I hide it as well. So
Mm.
this is the other thing with the binging is, like, my secret talent is baking, and so I like baking desserts, cheesecakes, but also I make really amazing homemade ice cream, and I'll make a homemade ice cream. We'll have a scoop of it each on at the weekend, but if I'm working from home, you'll be damn straight I'm into that ice cream, and I will finish the tub, and nobody will even notice, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I'm eating this in secret as well,
Mhm.
All of it just feels, like, alarming to me, and I don't like being in that cycle.
See, you said it yourself, like, for you, it's an emotional thing, and for a lot of
Mhm.
people, it is an emotional thing. It could mean that you're getting comfort. You have it when you're stressed, you have it when you're sad. So, like, let's look at ice cream, for example. People associate, I don't know, sadness with ice cream, birthday cake with happiness and celebration, chocolate bar with being stressed out. A lot of these drivers tend to be an association with an emotion. So it's not so much of a physiological thing, like you said. For you, it is definitely an emotional thing that is driving your behaviors.
Yeah.
And if you want to break free from it, you kind of need to go back and look at, right, what is it that I'm feeling?
Mm.
So at the time that you decide to do what you're doing and when you're going through your binge, are you stressed out? Are you feeling joyful? Are you feeling sad? Do you just need some time on your own because the kids have been doing your head in? Because I find that that's usually when I tend to get it.
Yeah.
And I think when you sort of bring it back, you can then decide, right, okay, now what's the next step? Got the awareness. I know I've had a really stressful day and I just want to have 5 minutes of peace to myself. Is there anything else you can do during that 5 minutes to get that feeling of calm, get that feeling of peace? Is it gonna be just the chocolate bar that delivers it to you or that
Mm.
cake batter that delivers it to you? Or can you maybe go outside for a walk, put a podcast on? Is there something else that might give you that grounding that you need? So I think understanding what the emotion is behind it and then what that connection is can really help you move forward. And and then just sort of taking a step back and saying, right, okay, what have I done today? Did I eat enough food to start with? Have my meals been balanced? Did I have enough protein? Did I have enough healthy fats? Did I have enough fiber? Because actually, let's say it's the weekend and it's not your usual routine. So things are a little bit out of the window and you've I'm just using, me. Don't know if this is you, but use this as an example. You go out for your run, you come back, you haven't eaten anything, and you're like, oh, I'm hungry. So you have, I don't know, some coffee or a quick slice of toast. And then your kids are like, oh, mummy, let's do something together. And you said, oh, let's bake because then we can have some connection. We can do something together. And then you start baking and you're having this wonderful moment and, you try some of the batter. And then that batter's like, Jesus Christ, that was amazing. I need to have some more of that. But if you break it down, if you had eaten sufficiently beforehand, let's say you had a nice avocado toast with some smoked salmon and some eggs. Now, that is a decent amount of protein, decent amount of fat, and, maybe you've had some spinach or broccoli leaves on the side. Actually, when you are going through the process of baking, yes, you're still getting that joy and that connection. But when you try that cake batter, you're not going to feel that instant feeling of, I need to eat more. Because sometimes when you do get cravings, and I guess this is one of the ways you can differentiate between whether it's a craving or if it's actually hunger, is would a chicken breast and some broccoli do? Because if it won't do, then it's definitely a craving.
Yeah.
If you know that you could eat something else, which is probably higher in protein or fiber, then you're more likely to realize it's actually hunger. And that quick boost of energy that you're going to get from that sweet treat is not going to be enough. And then you're going to be craving something more and getting back into that same cycle again.
Yeah, I think I know it's so funny you said that because I was just about to say to you, like, sometimes I think it might be because I've not eaten properly, and it's almost always the weekends or Monday when I work from home, um, and, the weekends, I'm sure it's that, I've gone out of exercise, we're busy, we're not on our normal schedule. My husband likes to cook these, like, amazing big breakfasts, but we don't have them until 10 or 11 o'clock. Then that throws your lunch out and then dinner out and everything else. But I also think on Monday mornings, let's say we've had like a full on weekend, and I love working from home on Mondays because it allows me to get through a bunch of stuff like uninterrupted, and it allows me to kind of come down from the weekend as well. I like not being around people on Monday.
Yeah.
Kids are off to school, and I'm like, I've kind of got the house to myself, and I can just decompress whilst really getting through work. But I will sit there and I work from my dining room table, and I sit there and I'm like, it's like there's a whisper coming from the kitchen. And it's like, that cake that we made
Oh,
over the
yeah.
weekend, that ice cream we made, that Easter chocolate sitting in the fridge. It's like it's there, and it is there from like 8 in the morning.
Mm.
It's like I've got the devil on my shoulder, and he's just being like, just have a little bit. And I'm actually, this is going to sound weird. I'm very good at not eating sugar in the evening. Like I
Mhm.
won't eat sugar after like 5 or 6 p.m. because it really affects my sleep.
That's interesting because I think a lot of people tend to get their cravings later on in the day,
Yeah.
like when they're completely depleted because their energy has gone and, they've used up all their willpower or whatever it is on everything else. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I do have like that 3 and 4 p.m.
Yeah.
slump. I honestly, if I could have my dinner at 4 p.m., I would have my dinner at 4 p.m. and I'd be
I do, by the way.
I would love that. Like it's hard enough getting my husband to have dinner at 6. But yeah, so coming back, so I will like I'll start picking at chocolate at like 9 in the morning, and that will kind of probably go until 2 p.m.
What's your breakfast situation like? Tell me your morning routine, actually. Let's start with that. So,
Okay, so
on a Monday, by the way.
6
Yeah.
on a Monday, but it's more or less the same, like 6 days a week. Is I will get up at 5:30. I am out the house doing some form of exercise 6 till 7. And that will be anything. So Mondays is strength training with a PT. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays are runs. And those runs are anywhere from like 10 to 25K.
Wow.
So they're quite long. And strength training's Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the moment. And this is because I'm training for a race on Sunday. And so, and then Sundays are my like, don't do anything apart from like walking the dog. Evenings we'll walk the dog and maybe throw a few Pilates in there. So I get up, and the last 4 or 5 weeks since becoming obsessed with Stacey Sims,
Yes.
I have changed up what I'm eating. So as soon as I wake up, I will eat something. So this morning that was like a David bar, which is 28 grams of protein.
Are they good? Okay, so I'm going to digress a little bit because I Where did you get them from? The States, I'm guessing.
The US,
And do they taste good?
Oh my God, they're so good.
Okay.
I went to LA and Salt Lake a few weeks ago, and one of my friends over there, guys I'm working with, I was like, I'm going to order some stuff to your house.
Yeah.
And I ordered a bunch, and I could not believe actually how they taste really good.
Do they? Okay. I need to try and get my hands on some of these because
Yeah.
I've been hearing about them and I'm like, I really want to try one, but I just don't know how I'm going to get my hands.
Next time I see you, I will bring you some. They are so good because they are like 28 grams of protein, 150 calories, no sugar, and they taste great. So I might have like a David bar, or I'll have like some muesli, and if I'm running, I go for something a bit more carbs, like muesli and raspberries, or a couple of boiled eggs. Then when I get in for my exercise, I will have a protein shake, but my protein shake will have my protein powder, peanut butter, almond milk, and fruit. And then I'll have some boiled eggs. Sometimes they will just be on their own if I'm on the go. Other times it'll be kind of boiled eggs, a bit of avocado, and a piece of toast. So I actually will have a 600 to 700 calorie breakfast,
Good on you.
pre and post, and then I will have kind of like a 500 calorie lunch, which will be protein, salad, rice. There will always be kind of and veggies, and then probably some nuts in the afternoon, and then dinner.
You've already said that you've just changed up your eating patterns. Now,
Yeah.
has there been a difference this time around? Because you said you've gone 4 days without the sugar.
Yeah.
How has that been since you've started eating more, like in comparison to the way it was before you were focusing on your protein?
Yeah, it's good. I'm honestly, I'm not having physical cravings for sugar at the moment. I had a little bit of a dip yesterday afternoon, but I think that's just because I was tired.
Yeah.
But I haven't worked from home. I've been on the go all week. I've had a busy week. The test is going to be the weekend.
Yeah. Monday, because obviously it's Thursday today.
Yeah.
How was Monday for you? Because that would have been like did you start on the Monday?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And so how was that? Did you find that the devil was calling you, or was it quieter than usual?
Yeah, I didn't work from home on Monday this week. I had to
Okay.
go in, so it wasn't.
See that?
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens next Monday. And again, it'll just totally depend on what's happened this weekend.
Yeah. What are your plans for the weekend then?
I have got loads of kids things. Oh, I've got a nice lunch. I can say it because he's not going to watch this. I'm taking my husband to Burnt Ends.
Oh, love
for lunch on Saturday. It's his 40th, and we've booked a private room, so it's a surprise party for him.
Amazing.
So that's going to be like a really big meal.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and avoid the dessert, which I think after eating so much will be fine. And then Sunday, I'm running a half marathon, the 2XU, which is it's going to be a difficult day Sunday because kickoff is 4 a.m. So I'm going to be up from 2:33, getting into town, running the race. I'll be home 6:30, 7 o'clock. And then it's actually going to be Sunday that I think where I'm going to be tired after the race because I've got up early, tired from the run. So I'm going to have to really make sure that when I do get home, I like really, really refuel properly and eat properly.
And that's the thing. I think what you need to focus on is looking at, have I eaten enough of the right stuff during the day? Like stuff that my body needs, especially after that crazy weekend of running. Because I think, that's going to take it out of you in terms of the energy.
Yeah.
When your energy is lower, that's when you're going to want fuel. And the fastest way to get fuel is usually something that's going to taste good, and that's going to be the sugar. But if you can give yourself the protein and the fiber and even the hydration that your body needs, because you're going to need that as well.
Yeah.
Then you can see, right, how quiet is that voice? Is it still shouting? Because that's usually what happens with cravings. It's like this loud shouting, which is like, I need sugar now.
It just rationalizes it, know?
And I think one of the other things that tends to happen is we get into this mode of, right, sugar is bad and eating this is good. But then when you look at it like that and then you do something which is slightly off track and you think, oh, well, am I allowed to swear? I don't know.
Yeah. Go
okay. I fucked up now. So what doesn't matter. I'll just, go for it. Go all in, because it's that all or nothing mentality. That's when it becomes a problem, because you're labeling things as good and bad. And you're like, well, I've been so good. Let me treat myself, because you're like, I've been really, really good. But then that triggers oh no, now I've been bad. Now I might as well just go for it.
That is also definitely what happens with me.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh, you know what? If I'm going to break it, I'm just going to break it. Like, let's go, If I'm gonna, because I tried to give up sugar for Lent. But my daughter's birthday was like the second week of Lent.
Mm.
And so I was like, well, I'm making her birthday cake. If I'm going to, I can't not have a piece of birthday cake on her birthday with her. And so I was making the cake and I was like, I'm going to break it anyway. So I might as well just eat half the icing.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, because it's that association of, right, well, I've already done it, so does it really matter anymore? But actually it does, because it's how you come back from it that will make the bigger difference.
Yeah.
So firstly, I guess demonizing the food and also associating it with your emotions really is not going to help in the long run. So if we take a scenario and let's say it's your husband's birthday, which is going to be on Saturday, and if you already say, I'm not going to have cake, then you're already putting yourself in this restrictive mode. The cake might come out and you might think, God damn, that looks amazing. And I can taste the buttercream. Did you make it, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know.
you've made this cake. You know what it's going to taste like.
Yeah.
But if you force yourself to not have it and then you push until Sunday, you might then be like, oh my God, I'm so overly tired, overly exhausted, lacking energy. I deserve this. Right. And then that's when the spiral will start. But if you take that moment and say, you know what, it's my husband's birthday. I'm going to have a slice of cake and I'm going to enjoy that cake. I'm going to be mindful about what I'm having. So you're going to sit down, you're going to enjoy every mouthful, think about the taste, the texture, that feeling, and then be like, right, I've had the cake. I'm done. I'm satisfied. That is a different sort of reframing of that whole experience, rather than I'm not allowed it, I'm not going to have it. But if you allow yourself to have it once in a while, then it doesn't become good or bad and an all or nothing or a cheat meal. You can kind of, work it into your lifestyle without it being so much of a problem. But then on the flip side, if you really do have serious addictions, because you wouldn't say to someone who's an alcoholic, oh, it's
Go and
okay,
have a
go
drink.
and have a drink. But I think it really does come down to what your relationship is like. Now, if it's causing serious issues, so if you or somebody else has got certain issues like your candida, like you mentioned earlier, or type 2 diabetes, then you really do need to be more mindful of the fact that this is not serving you.
Yeah.
And the best way to get away from it is refraining from having it.
Yeah.
But if you're generally healthy and you generally eat well and you generally can manage, other elements of your life, then actually having this as a once in a while treat can be good. It might be that you might have to refrain from it for a few months and then introduce it back in, and you'll realize your taste buds have completely changed. Like, I will have something now and I'll be like, oh my God, that was so fucking sweet. Whereas before I'd be like, that wasn't sweet. Like, I couldn't eat fruit before because I was just like, it doesn't taste of anything. But I remember the first time, this can sound so weird, but the first time I had a peach after not having any type of sugar, and that includes fruit. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is the best thing I have ever tasted. It was just a peach.
Yeah.
But I could taste every flavor. I could taste like that juiciness. And I was like, this is amazing. How did I not like peaches before?
That's what happened after the Candida diet with me both times. I was like, oh my God, this fruit tastes amazing. Yeah. I don't know if I'm there yet to be able to just have like a bit of, so if I have a bit of cake, then I've broken the week streak and that's Sunday gone.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, I may as well just tucking to the kids out Easter eggs and everything else. Like, I feel like sometimes I don't even have control over those thoughts.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I think they just happen sometimes so subconsciously that it's like I'm trying to catch myself, but it's like too late.
Yeah.
The other thing is though, is I'm not going to not have sugar this weekend. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm running a long race on Sunday. Now, there are times when I can run 20K without any fuel and will, but not in a race. So in the race, I'll probably take 2 gels with me to fuel, and they will have kind of 30 grams of carbs and they will be basically pure sugar.
And actually 30 grams of carbs in that situation is completely fine.
Yeah.
Because actually, I think if you were to break it down, it is usually about 30 grams per meal, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
In order to sort of, especially because you're depleting your glycogen stores from your muscles as you're running, that will help to sort of replenish those glycogen stores. So that would be fine. But, when you go on a binge and then you include everything in there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and for someone who's not running as well, that is, if you're sitting at home or, at your desk, and then you're adding in all of these things, you're not getting rid of the glycogen stores in your muscles. And then that's when,
Yeah.
the physiological issues can creep up as well.
And I think that's so it's I'll have a couple of gels, but I also have, Maynard's Jelly Babies, which are amazing. My mum, you can't get them here in
Okay,
Singapore,
yeah.
and so my mum and dad bring them over from the UK.
Yeah.
And, the reason why I take them, again, this is one of Stacey Sims' things, that when you're doing endurance sport, try not to rely too heavily on the gels, because obviously they're everything's highly processed, but they're,
Yeah.
very, very harsh on your stomach, so try to eat food.
Yeah.
And the Jelly Babies have got 5 grams of carbs in per Jelly Baby.
Yeah.
So they're actually a great, source of fuel, and they're easier on the stomach. So I might have like 8 Jelly Babies plus 2 kind of gels throughout that run.
Is
Um
there some gelatin in there as well? Because then I'm assuming that, okay, so with the gelatin, there's probably some collagen. And if there's collagen, there's a bit of protein.
I love how you're like, I love this. I'm justifying the Jelly Baby. I mean, like, the gelatin is okay. I'm going to check the back of the packet.
I mean, it probably was made with gelatin like years and years ago, but they probably had to change it up now because
Vegans.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that?
You said it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have a look at that though. But I do kind of worry, and this is something that I also kind of learned from like the glucose goddess, and a lot of what she talks about is that kind of sugar first thing in the morning. It's gonna be 4 in the morning. I will eat before I run, but it's pretty much kind of an empty stomach, and putting that sugar on, there's going to be a high chance that that will set me off on like a downward sugar spiral for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So not only am I recovering from the run, not only is my body recovering from, I'm tired from a really early start, I've also put a lot of sugar in my stomach, kicking off cravings.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do for the rest of the day to try and ensure that I don't go on into a sugar binge?
During that time, I'm going to say you need to then prioritize, again, the right macronutrients. So after you've finished your run, go for a nice protein, fiber breakfast, because that will then hopefully replenish some of those energy stores, some of what you've used up during that time. Because we're only catabolic, right? So you're going to be using up some of your, your muscle, breaking down some of your muscle, and obviously emptying out your glycogen stores. So some really good carbohydrates, ideally something like a sourdough. It's got less of the processed stuff in there, more natural.
Homemade.
Don't tell. Oh, God, I'm going to have to put in some orders with you.
That's why I say my secret thing is being a baker. I bake bread twice a week.
That is incredible. And make sure you get sufficient protein in, as well as some well, you can add starchy veg, but like some greens in, some spinach or some rocky leaves, broccoli, anything that will kind of help fuel you. And then be mindful of how you're feeling post that. Try and rest and recover, because if you find that you then start doing other things, you're going to feel more depleted, and then you're going to want more energy. So maybe at that time, it's like you can say to your kids, guys, I've had a really busy morning. Mummy's a bit tired. I need just some time out on my own to just chill. And I'm assuming you're going to be chilling anyway, because
I hope so.
after your massive run, it's going to be a lot on your body physically and also on your brain mentally as well. Yeah. And I think then be mindful. So if those sugar cravings do creep in, then maybe it's something else that's going on. Maybe there's some dysbiosis in the gut. Now, I've had a client, in fact, it was a mother who got in touch with me, who said that her 10-year-old daughter is like secretly eating a lot of sweets, is getting caught in this sugar cycle. And she wanted to do a gut health test on her to see, is there something deeper? And we've got the results back. And what it's showing is there is signs of dysbiosis with Candida. There is some yeast overgrowth there. But also the other issue is her serotonin levels are low. Now, when you're feeling down, what is the quickest way to feel like light up your brain again? It's going to be the sugar. Yeah. So maybe there's something else there. Maybe there's something with your neurotransmitters that is not quite at its optimal level. And that could be because you are drained and you're tired and, you've had a lot going on. And then it's like figuring out, right, what else can I do to help fill my cup? What else can you do to help feel calm? What else brings you joy?
Oh gosh. Honestly, like the reason why I train so much is because I genuinely love it.
Yeah.
I love running. I love going for walks. Like I love just getting out and walking the dog. I really like the social community elements of like the people that I train with. I love movies, sitting and watching movies, but movies does has that association with sugar,
Is that when you want popcorn and sweet or something
yeah,
to yeah.
yeah. But you know, even just sitting at home and kind of watching movies and doing arts and crafts with the kids, going for a swim with them. So lots of quite active things actually give me joy, and I think it's probably more those times when you're sitting at home and
You're
maybe the
bored.
boredom
Mm.
creeps in or habit creeps in, or I just felt a bit of a snack
Yeah.
or
And that's very normal because a lot of people do find, and I'm one of them, by the way. So I notice that my cravings kick in. I get cravings, by the way. I still get them sometimes,
yeah.
but I will get cravings when my husband's not around, the kids have gone to bed, and I'm home alone. I'm not home alone, but
Yeah.
I'm in my space alone. And then I'm watching TV and I'm like, ah, I fancy something.
Yeah.
So now I've switched it up. So rather than having something to eat, I'll have something to drink. So like a hot cup of tea. So my hands are around the mug, and I've got something to do with my hands, and then I'm focusing on the TV. Because a lot of the times it's kind of like they say the devil makes work for idle hands,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. Like we've gotten to this point where we're constantly trying to do something all the time that we can't just sit still. And,
Yeah.
like I'll find sometimes if I'm watching TV, my hands will go onto my phone and I'm like, why the hell am I picking up my phone when I could be concentrating on something else? And it's just because we always want to do something with our hands. So I find if I've got a drink in my hand, that's enough to to stop me from,
I'm gonna try that.
yeah, give it a
Just try
try.
and start. Yeah. I've definitely like been drinking more like herbal teas and things in the afternoon, which I do feel like helps sometimes. Um, but yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we have touched on it a little bit around kind of the physical, but I think maybe let's talk a little bit about hormone fluctuations.
Mhm.
Of course, it's the time of the month looms.
Yeah.
So it's the sugar cravings like increase. Why does that happen?
All your hormones are kind of interconnected. So,
Mm,
when one thing is slightly off, then it's going to have an impact. But when you are going through your cycle, so you've got the two major female sex hormones are estrogen and progesterone. And in the first half of your cycle, it's rising. But then in the second half of your cycle, after you've ovulated, the estrogen and progesterone, especially sort of towards the end, will dip. When the progesterone dips and your estrogen dips, so does your serotonin. It takes it,
okay.
and then it causes, like it will cause you to want to feel better. So serotonin is produced in the gut.
Oh,
Like
is it?
90% of your serotonin levels come from the gut. And so if you already have some kind of dysbiosis there,
Yeah.
these cravings are going to be harsher. They're going to be louder.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's not one thing. It's not to say that, if you had the perfect gut, you're not going to crave sugar. You might crave it because you might need that sort of that normal feel good feeling because you do feel rubbish. Everyone feels a bit rubbish.
Yeah.
It might be that your magnesium is depleted and dark chocolate is rich in magnesium. So you might hear that people crave chocolate during, when their period is coming.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not so much the chocolate that they need, maybe it's the magnesium. And if that's the case, maybe you could try some nuts. Almonds are quite high in magnesium. Maybe you could try having a banana. And I'm going to be honest, like a banana definitely won't cut it for this.
I know. I know. I might. You can try, but
You could
yeah.
try. And if it was the magnesium, then hopefully you'll be satisfied.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't the magnesium and it's the serotonin, then, there's stuff that you will probably need to work on underneath it all.
Yeah.
And then you chuck in perimenopause and then your hormones going crazy. You don't know if you're coming, you're going. You don't know, your progesterone levels are naturally declining. So your serotonin levels are, going to be hitting the ground. And that's why you have women who have got like these crazy moments of rage and feelings, like
Yeah.
the feelings are intensified. Like I know that when I'm getting a little bit more emotional during, when when I'm coming to the end of my cycle, or start my cycle, however you want to say
Yeah.
it. Those feelings are coming from the hormones and I guess the lack of
Yeah.
neurotransmitters as well.
Oh my God. It's been something to look forward to at the perimenopause. Okay. I hopefully got a few more years. And so just hoping that now it's such a hot topic that there is going to be more protocols, more techniques, more solutions for relief when that time comes. And I love that it's really becoming a focus in conversations at the moment.
And I think if you do support your body naturally, so you support your gut by eating the right nutrients that your body needs, the fiber,
Yeah.
and you support your muscles by getting in the protein and strength training and giving it that stimulus that it needs. And you generally give yourself some time, to breathe or take a break. All of these things will help. But it's kind of, if you are not eating well enough, and that might have a knock on effect on your gut health. That will then have a knock on effect on your mental health. And, maybe your mental health will have a knock on effect on your sleep. Then you're not feeling well enough to go to the gym. You get stuck in this vicious cycle. So it's not just one thing that you need to focus on. It's going to be a combination of everything to remain balanced. Unfortunately, sorry guys, I can't wish there was like one
No.
one thing you could do.
I know, I know. And honestly, like, I think the more you hear in the press about, sugar is the cause of so much inflammation in the body. And, so the eating sugar in excess is not going to do you any favors. The more it's starting to make sense that it's something that we remove the best we can.
And the thing is, so with sugar, it's not sugar per se. No one's
Mm.
eating the white stuff from the bag. It's not, right?
No.
It is hyperpalatable foods, and it's usually a combination of sugar, fat, and sometimes salt. That
Yeah.
that combination of something that's going to feel rewarding. It's designed in a way to hijack your brain. That
Yeah.
reward center in your brain. If we take out the sugar element from it, maybe it's not going to do that to you, because you're then staying stable. You're going to be in a not a flat, but a bit more of a calm greener zone.
Yeah.
But it's when you've got these fluctuations of things going up and down, your blood sugar going up and down, your insulin levels that will then obviously spike and go up and down, whether you are then feeling sad or happy. These feelings are all heightened when, there's more sugar in the mix, I'm afraid.
I know. So you touched on a couple of tests earlier. So like serotonin, gut, how do you say it?
So, I mean, gut health test.
Gut health
Yeah.
test.
It's a microbiome test. So it looks at.
Okay.
So the one that I do is it looks at your oral and your gut microbiome,
Okay.
and it will basically tell you what the pathways are. So it will tell you, rather than just saying, oh, you've got a low amount of lactobacillus or bifidobacterium, like you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
how does that impact me? It will tell you, right, are your serotonin levels in optimal ranges, or are they low, or are they can't be too high. It will just be, suboptimal or average. It will tell you whether your thyroid production is working in the right way. It will tell you whether you've got enough nitric oxide. There's like all of these different areas and pathways of what the gut actually does, and whether it's in the right range, or whether
Yeah.
it's suboptimal, or, if there's something you need to work on. And then it will give you an idea of what you should be eating to support your gut, and what you shouldn't be having
Okay.
to support your gut as well.
Yeah. Okay, this sounds amazing. And is this a blood test or a stool test or
So it can be done either as a stool sample
yeah.
or a saliva sample. So the saliva one is obviously a little bit easier because you just got to spit into a tube. The stool one is a bit more accurate when it comes to obviously your gut microbiome, but it's like an AI interpretation. So if you did the saliva sample, what it does is it will look at your oral microbiome and then interpret from that data how it is likely to affect your gut microbiome.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, if you did the stool sample, it will then tell you how your oral health is looking. And the thing is, all of these things can be factors for other diseases. So it then gives you a disease risk prediction. So you might see that, are you, I shouldn't say on track, but are you en route for having type 2 diabetes? What's your kidney health like? It will even give you your biological microbiome age. I'm not going to tell you mine because I wasn't happy with it. But it's stuff
Yeah.
that you can sort of work on. So it will then guide you as to, right, how can I do better. It's more of like a preventative way on how you can work on what's going on. Oh, and your cardiometabolic health as well. So, what's your risk for, I guess, a heart attack based on your microbiome and also your lifestyle factors as well.
Wow, okay, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So we can maybe get some science behind,
Yeah.
maybe why we're craving sugar,
Yep.
or the impact sugar is or
Ex-
could have,
exactly that.
in the
Yeah.
future. Okay, that's really interesting. And you do these tests?
I do these tests. I
Yeah.
do. I mean, I provide the test to the client,
Yeah.
and then the lab will obviously analyze the samples, and then it gets sent to somebody else who then interprets the test.
So just tell us a little bit more about your services as well. So
Oh,
what can you help, how can you help post-test?
okay. So post test, is basically breaking down that information and providing you with details as to what it actually means. Because sometimes people look at it and they're like, okay, what does this mean for me? And then I can then help with what you should be eating and what you shouldn't be eating. And also maybe a meal plan. Because some people are like, all right, okay, you're saying that I can have pomegranate, sweet potato, and spinach. But what the hell am I supposed to do with it?
Yeah.
So, then I'll be like, okay, well, maybe you can make something out of it. Maybe you can do this. And then also that coaching side of things, because for some people, when you're addicted to something, it's really hard to break the habit. So it's also going through and coaching them on how to move away from it, from being a sugar addiction to maybe something they enjoy once in a while, or maybe get rid of completely until they have managed to break free from it as well.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. You've given me so much food for thought, after this podcast. And yeah, I still don't know what's right for me. I don't know if that's going to be that full, my gut is telling me to go cold turkey for
Hmm.
a while, and then try to kind of reintroduce it in a much more controlled manner, rather than, try to get into kind of ending up in that flow of binges. But I also think I probably need to do some work psychologically
Hmm.
as well
Yeah.
with my therapist on why that connection and where this has all stemmed from. And yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of it is like, it's always starts off as, not always starts off, but it can be an emotional, like you tend to have this emotional link with sugar.
Mm,
And that's what tends to drive it more than the physical thing initially. The physical
yeah.
stuff, I think, comes after a prolonged period of being, I guess, addicted to it.
Oh, Jasmine, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it so much. I am going to link to all of your profiles below. So if anyone wants to reach out to Jasmine, please do so. She's honestly amazing. And listen to the Forties Formula with her and Amanda. They are both incredible. And so much amazing advice on there as well. And thank you, darling. It's so
Thank
nice to speak
you.
to you on here. And to everyone listening, I'll see you soon. Bye.